Here's a quick look at a couple of other stories on our minds this week. Mayor Duggan rolls out low-cost auto insurance for Detroiters, and Wayne County Executive Warren Evans rolls out a plan to save the county from financial ruin. All right, two pretty big stories here. I'm going to start with you, Nolan, about insurance in Detroit. What were your thoughts when, and the mayor just announced that yesterday?
It's an interesting proposal in the way that it dovetails with the discussion in Lansing over no-fault insurance reform. Duggan's asking for the same thing the legislature is being really vilified for doing across the state, and that is capping the catastrophic claims. It's one way to drive down insurance costs. It creates other problems. I mean, somebody's going to have to pay for the bills here. We've got a $18 billion catastrophic claims fund set up now to pay the bills for the people who are tragically injured in auto accidents. You eliminate that fund or the contributions of that fund, it's naturally going to lower your monthly car insurance bill, but where does the cost shift to? Does it shift to your health insurance bill? Does it shift to Medicaid? Somebody's got to pay it, and I'm not sure we've thought about either with the Detroit plan or with the plan in Lansing, who's going to ultimately pay for this?
Yeah, but the initial thought of when people hear that their car insurance rates could go down about 25% or 30%, I mean, that's still a good chunk of change for them.
Well, the bills in the legislature right now don't reduce your bill anywhere close to that. It's $100 a year, like $8 a month. If you're paying $300-400 a month, which some people in Detroit are, that's not going to make a difference. I think the question here is the trade-off. What are we getting in exchange for this big break for the insurance industry? And maybe they need it, and maybe they don't. But I certainly would not have started the conversation there. I would have started the conversation with what do consumers need, both in terms of rates and in terms of coverage. And if there's something we want to change there, then we should change it. But it's the industry is driving this, and they're driving it to benefit themselves, and the consumers are just sort of
well, Duggan's driving it in Detroit, and this was, he ended up coming up with the same solution the insurance company.
Because the medical costs are what drive the rates.
Medical costs are what drives the rates. But again, somewhere they have to be paid. And you have a high percentage of Detroiters on Medicaid. If you shift the costs from the catastrophic claims fund, which is very generously funded at this point, to the Medicaid system, which is not, are we creating a bigger problem than we had before in the interest of lowering rates? One of the things that would drop rates in Detroit is if you had more universal coverage, if more people bought insurance. And of course, that's a chicken and an egg. If you can't afford it, you're not going to buy it. So, which comes first? But you've got to get all motorists in the insurance pool before rates are going to fall.
Does Mayor Duggan have a chance of pushing this through the legislature, his plan?
I was really interested in the timing of this, given that debate in Lansing about these bills. I think he's got a better chance now than he did even 2 weeks ago. But again, I'm not sure it's the answer. I think a $275,000 cap on medical claims is not enough for people who get into these awful wrecks.
You get there pretty quickly.
But I mean, he's got a chance of getting it through the legislature if the overall no-fault reform passes, because
they can't do it.
If that fails, they can't do it for Detroit if they're not going to do it for the rest of the state, and they can't deny Detroit if they do it. So I assume they're going to be linked in some way, and the backers of the whole no-fault reform are going to see this as an opportunity, as sort of supplementing or supporting their cause. I'm sure they'll seize it. I haven't heard where the governor comes in on this issue.
Well, let's talk real quick before we leave tonight about Wayne County, Warren Evans, and his plan to cut $230 million over the next 4 years. What did you think of his plan, Stephen?
I think it's the best he can do given what he has to work with. I mean, he's not an emergency manager. He can't just impose a lot of things. This sort of smartly sets them up to be able to get their costs under control to an extent that they can maybe go and then borrow money later to pay things like the jail and these sort of lingering other issues. The problem is with all of these plans, they depend on everything going right. That you do save the costs and that you maintain the revenue stream, and in Wayne County and Detroit is always something of a wild card.
Chance that he's going to get out of this without an emergency manager?
I don't think you're going to get this plan passed without some sort of state intervention. It's probably going to be a consent agreement because half of these savings depend on union bargaining.
Unions
have to go along,
contracts.
too.
I don't see the unions going along with cuts, not the Wayne County unions, you know. I don't see them going along with cuts this deep without somebody's hand on their back.